Yeah. Step in the circle, queens rise and glow. We talk truth, let the inner light show. Real ones link, we ain't moving alone. Faith, fire, purpose, built in the bone. Mind on mission, heart stay aligned. Sisterhood strong, power redesigned. Checking in weekly, spirit refined. We break through the noise, wisdom divine. Hey,
Sisterhood check-in, tap into light. God in the light, though, we fight the good fight.
No mask, no shame, come as you are. From broken to bold, yeah, we're raising the bar.
Sisterhood check-in, tap into light. This ain't just talk, we walk with the word.
Faith in motion, fly like a bird. Every episode is spark, get back on your feet. Let clarity, power, purpose, peace. Chains fall down and the cycle cease. Every queen tuned in, know you belong. You're chosen, equipped, and spiritually strong. Sisterhood checking, vibe don't lie. Built from the pain, but we rise so high. In the middle, we fight the good fight, no mask.
Hey yo, Sisterhood check-in, tap into light. God in the light, now we fight the good fight.
No mask, no shame, come as you are. From broken to bold.
Welcome to Sisterhood Check-In. I am your author and coach, Nadira Lewis, and it's Friday. Woo! I am excited. Today is going to be amazing. I cannot wait to introduce to you my special guest today, David Richards. We're going to have an amazing conversation, but listen, guys, before I get into everything, if you are watching me on YouTube, make sure you hit the like, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button so that you can be notified every time I upload new videos, because I don't just upload videos on Fridays, I do upload during the week also. If you are watching me on Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, or any of the other platforms, make sure you click like and share so that we can get in the algorithm so that more people can see the information that we are sharing today. So I am excited. I can't wait to share with you. But before I share with you and introduce to you my amazing guest, watch this and we'll be right back after this.
We are living in a time where true wisdom is rare. We have all kinds of opinions, voices pulling us in different kinds of directions. But where is the clarity? Where is the counsel from the Lord? Wisdom is not just about making good decisions. It's about becoming the woman that God trusts with those decisions. Wisdom keeps you rooted. The Word of God tells us in Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5, that though good advice lies within the heart, deep within the heart, a man with understanding will draw it out. Join the Wisdom Academy, where you will not only experience change, but you'll be stretched and most of all, transformed by the Word of God.
All right, we are back here with Sisterhood Check-In, and I am amazed and I'm excited to introduce my guest with me, David Richards. Welcome to Sisterhood Check-In.
What's up, everybody?
How you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Kind of late tonight, right, to do Sisterhood Check-In?
It's okay. All the sisters checking in.
I'm excited, guys, because we have an amazing lineup and dialogue, a conversation. And if you have already watched the flyer, we talked about how to build your framework in your life and business around, being a single parent. So I wanted to ask David, before we actually get into a conversation, talk to some of the people, to my audience that are watching. Tell us about who you are and how did you get to a place where you can talk about this subject?
Well, first of all, I'm West Philadelphia, born and raised. Eagles fan all day. Super Bowl champions. I throw that out there. I wouldn't say I got thrown into the situation. I wouldn't say just, when you're a parent, you just have to go with the flow. I just got thrown into it. So I'm a girl dad. My daughter's 23. Hey, Hampton. And that's pretty much what it is. I mean, I can't really say that when you're a parent, you don't have a manual. Just, you know what I mean? You just go with the flow.
Well, I think we do. I think we just don't consider it a manual.
True. I mean, you can learn from the past and other people and maybe generations and grandmoms and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But when that door shuts and you're behind the door by yourself with that child, they might not be there. Like they give that baby to you at a hospital. It's like, okay, peace out. Good luck.
Yeah. It's almost like when you're going through delivery and you're having children and you watch all the videos and stuff, and they tell you about, we ask all a million questions of what was it like, but it isn't until you actually are in that place where you have to be.
That's correct. Yeah,
the one that delivered a baby or to be the one to take care of that child. Then you kind of lean a lot on what you know, what you experience to kind of form that framework. So what type of framework, before we get into framework, you're a single dad. So you said you were a single dad for how long?
Ever since my daughter was like maybe, I don't know, a baby, kindergarten, first grade. Before that.
That's amazing. That's actually pretty good, because I don't really hear there. I don't doubt that there's many people like you out there. It's just that we don't have a lot of conversations with men that are out there. But you brought up an interesting point, and you said your situation is really unique because you are a girl dad, a single girl dad. So talk to us about what that was like.
A single girl dad is different. It's mani and petties, it's ballet, it's girl stuff, that you have to do that you wouldn't necessarily do. I think the bond with a girl and her dad is real close. It's close.
Yeah,
close.
Definitely.
My daughter and I have a very, very close bond with each other. She looks exactly like me. So, I mean, that's a good thing. But I think when it came down to the love, I think I protected her a lot more than I did if I had a boy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because, as a male, you're trying to make that male tough. Right. And I think I told you before, like, I never hit my daughter.
Yeah.
I never want her to think that it's okay. You make a man mad, it's okay for them to hit you.
So do you think that parenting from a male perspective, especially in a single dad, because I think that's like a twofold thing. Do you think that, because I think every parent looks at something specific when they're raising their children to say, I want to make sure that this is going to be my narrative. I think it's interesting that you, as a father raising a daughter, that you're like, I don't want her to think that it's okay, that if he gets mad. So you are thinking beyond just parenting. You're thinking that whatever instructions that you give her, you want her to see it from a long-term perspective. So when she is now 23, she can look back and say, wait a minute, my dad.
I took a page out of my dad, because my dad, God rest his soul, I have a sister, and I saw how he treated her, because she has 3 brothers and just my sister. And I remember one time she called my dad like around 11:30, and she was like, Dad, can you come pick me up from work? And he was like maybe 35-40 minutes out. I'm sitting right next to him, and I said, is she catching the bus to 69th Street, which is a big bus terminal in Philly? And he's like, no, I'm about to go pick her up. I'm like, it's like 11:30 at night. I mean, he got up without even a flinch to go get her. So I thought that was like, okay. And he said, my dad's favorite motto was like, until you have a child of your own, you won't understand. I said, why do I have a curfew? Until you have a child of your own, you won't understand. So that is what I incorporated with my child. I want her to understand, like, just because you have the lens of your mom, I want you to see a lens of your dad as well.
I think that's so important. I think that's why both parents have to understand like what their contribution is to raising that child, because especially even the more when you're by yourself, it's like you have to kind of, like what I was telling you, overcompensate.
Yeah.
Especially for a woman. Now in my situation, where my husband passed away, it was, my parenting comes from more of a nurturing aspect where how did you deal with the nurturing part of your daughter, since you were more like, did you feel like that was a little bit more complicated, or did you have people in her life that kind of contributed to that? Like,
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it was all me. It takes a village, right?
Right.
So, her mom was in her life, but her mom was in her life at kind of minimum.
Okay.
I'm not sure what she was going through at the particular time, but that means that somebody has to step up to the plate, right? So for me, I loved on her. I let her know to this day, if you ask her questions like, what does your dad always say to you? He always asks me, do I know that he loves me?
Oh,
so she knows that I know that I love her. We don't close our conversation without saying, I love you or whatever. So she knows that. So that's one thing I did when she was younger. I want her to see that, a guy can be vulnerable. So, another thing too is very, very important is that my daughter never saw a bunch of women come in and out of my house.
Come on now. That is one thing that my children can actually say about me is I am real. I guess because okay, I guess I don't need to say that, but sometimes you want to say some things, but you got to kind of hold your tongue so you don't so it doesn't create a scenario that you don't want to come back and bite you later.
That's correct.
But I know what I saw, and I knew that when I became a single parent, I knew they can tell you, oh, I don't have a lot of people swinging in and out of my door. And I do that. I've been ever since my kids were younger. I've always had this conscious mindset of they're watching everything that I do.
They're very perceptive.
And not only are they watching everything that I do, that how I respond, even in situations and circumstances, I create the narrative for them to follow whatever direction that I go through. So even when we were going through difficult things financially, or they did not know because I didn't create the scenario where they would be like, oh, I wanted them to know what it was like to be able to maneuver. And then afterwards, they will be like, well, Mom, what happened to this? And then I can tell them, okay, this is, and it's crazy because when I look at my adult children now and I look at how they run their life, it's so funny because it's like I'm looking at myself in them, because I think what happens is, especially with us growing up north, our parents pretty much, we did a lot of stuff on our own.
I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I had to be maybe in first grade. I was walking to the orthodontist.
Yes.
In Philly, walking to the orthodontist.
Yes.
Going up 15th Street. I remember, right, because my school was right near City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Going to the orthodontist, getting a hot dog, going to the orthodontist, getting my braces tightened up, and then going back home.
Yep.
And I'm like, I think back, I'm like, man, that would never happen now. Somebody take your kid from you.
I would never have I wouldn't even, they can't even walk. I don't even let them go from in front of the porch thing. And I think because when I look at how I was raised and how you were raised, we were walking to school 30 minutes. We were doing, it's a different time. And I think even parenting, I think has to not necessarily change in terms of, I think what happens is you have to find creative ways to still teach them things when they're in, like my children are homeschooled. So they've had a couple of years where they were actually in a physical school and they loved it. I love the teachers and I loved it. But there is a lot of different pressures and things that they have to deal with, because when you're raising them like one way, when you're home, when they get actually to school, they have to be faced with all these other kids who are raised totally different.
That's
so
right.
how did you deal with that? Because I'm assuming you're a Christian, right?
Yes,
because you
I am.
talked about, so how did your parenting, how did that conflict come about? Or did you have a conflict with them being in?
So a perfect example was my daughter, when she was younger, she had vitiligo. Everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what that is, right?
Yes.
So they would make fun of her knees and make fun of her arms. I said, you go back and tell them that's how God made you, right? Because God doesn't make any mistakes. I also gave her the logic, just like me, like, you shouldn't care what people think about you.
Right. Absolutely.
And that has gone with her in up to her adolescence, up until her being a woman. Like, don't care what people think about you. Go in there and do the best you possibly can.
Absolutely.
And go ahead and crush it, because she's an actress. So she does what she's doing. If you didn't have an actress and you don't have that self-esteem, you're not going to really do a great job, right?
Yeah, my daughter is she's in California. She's an actress and she's played in a couple of lead roles on Lifetime. And you're right. I think even if it's not an actress, no, whatever it is, I think when you take the time when they're younger to instill things that's going to anchor them.
And also, I also started off when she was going to school. It might have been a 15-20 minute ride. I taught her different scriptures each week.
Oh, wow. I love that. That's amazing.
So, I started off with the John 3:16, and it got a little more difficult. We went to like Romans 12:1 and Hebrews, so I instilled it in her. And then I also, I think when we were coming up, it was always instilled, Jesus this, Jesus that. People, I invite people to church right now, like, no, I'm not coming to church, because they have a bad taste in their mouth, because they were church every day when they were coming up, right? Church is now an hour, where I go. And I would show my daughter, we can play gospel, we can play old school hip hop, we can play some Sade.
Sade,
which is my favorite singer. But she can understand, like, wow, this music that my dad's playing is really diverse. Now, I never played any rap music. I played was always the no cursing part.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I want to mention too, is that
It's
I
a
never,
different time.
I don't curse.
Yeah.
And I never curse at my daughter.
Yeah. That's
and I
important.
think it's very, very important. Like I said, she has to see, being a parent, you're under a microscope. People don't think kids are watching what you're doing.
Yeah.
And she saw that, okay, one thing she can say is like, wow, you know, my dad never cursed at me.
Mm-hmm.
She know not to push my buttons. I still won't curse at her, but she know not to push my buttons. Like, okay, if I here's my premise. My mom and dad always told me this: if your parents don't think you're crazy, then you're not a good parent.
I hope my kids are listening to this. Did you hear what Mr. Davis said? If you don't think your parents crazy.
So I was at Marshall's one time when my daughter was younger. You know how like they have a little carousel of clothes, and my daughter was going through the carousel of clothes, and I couldn't see her for like 3 seconds. It freaked me out.
Oh God!
And she stuck her head out. She said, "Daddy, I'm right here." I'm like, "Hey, stop! Don't do that. Stop playing around." And she kept talking back. And I said, "Yo, listen. You can keep playing with me. I'm gonna drop kick you right in your back." And this lady's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you talked to her like that." I said, "First of all, do you have kids?" And she was like, "No." I said, "If any other time, I would probably just stop the conversation because you don't know what I'm going through. But number two, would I ever touch my daughter? No, I would never touch her. She don't know that. So I put the fear in her. And to this day, up to like maybe she was like 20, when we went to a store, my daughter stood right next to me. She might have been on her phone, but she stood right next to me because she know that I'm protecting her. And that's a dad's job is to be a protector. You have to have those kind of conversations, uncomfortable conversations. And sometimes in this day and age, when you have these phones and these games, whenever I used to drive her to school, we used to have this thing called the talk, which means that nothing is off limits inside the car. I got you for 20 minutes. Let's go. We have our conversations. And anything you want to ask me, she didn't know it would come out of my mouth because I would just start telling her stuff. But anything she wanted to know, I would tell her, and vice versa. You can't be baby and coddling some of these kids because they're not getting that. They're not getting that when they see it out there. So I never talked to my daughter in baby talk. I talked to her in straight language. She came home one time and talking about some kids aggravating her. I'm like, okay, my job is done if you can learn that word. So you can't be coddling these kids. You got to really talk. Some of them they know stuff, but you got to that's how they're gonna learn their vocabulary. You got to talk to them like they're adults.
Yeah. So we talked about one of the things that you can do, and that's defining your core identity and your values. And I think that's important. And what David and I were talking about is you have to be able to set that boundary and that standard.
That's correct.
So that they can know that when they're out in the midst of other kids, because not every parent wants to homeschool, not every parent has the ability to homeschool, but either way, you have to choose. You have to be able to say, okay, wow, like you said, that 20-minute time to go into school that you had her in the car, you built a time frame that you can say, you know what, nothing is off limits. We could talk about whatever it is. And so for her, she'll probably remember that all of her life. Like, I remember when, like, kids, we think some of the things that we think kids remember, they don't really care. They think about the intimate times. Like McKinley said to me earlier today, she said, I make dinner time really special for us. Like dinner time, there's no phones, there's no TV,
I agree with that.
There's no nothing. We sit and go through the whole scenario where we sit down and we eat and we talk. And because I want them to know that even though I do a lot during the daytime, I want them to know that I'm always present. Because sometimes you can have parents that are in the home, but not always present.
Yeah.
And I remember with my adult kids, David, I remember working so much, being so driven by my goals and aspirations that I was working, going to school for skincare, doing so much stuff that when I stopped to look at it, I was like, man, like my kids grew up so fast and I don't even remember. Like, I don't remember like there's two of my kids. I don't even remember their childhood because I was just going so much. So when I had McKinley and Bella, I made it, my son Adam, he was younger, but I think when I had him, I started to realize like, wait a minute, I'm going to take this time and I'm going to slow down in life. And there's a couple of years I just didn't do a whole lot. I just lived a really simple life. And I think I still kind of am in that same mindset where I kind of live a simple life in terms of I built my life, even my business, around my girls.
Yeah.
So basically what I do is we get up in the morning, I have posted a picture on Facebook, and we did like breakfast and Bible study. To us, I want them to grow up. Even funny, like my daughter sent me a text today, and this thing, she almost made me cry. And she said, she did this thing, and she said, my mom gave me $10 and my dad gave me 20. But the difference is my dad had $200 and my mom only had 15. And I understood, because when she talks, she never just says anything just because she always has an underlying reason. So when she said, I was like, you're going to make me cry. And she said, I have the best mommy. And she's 32. She's 33. She's 33 now. And she said, I have the best mom. She said, and I said, you're going to make me cry, because her love for me is not just because I'm her mom. It's because of the time that I take to pour into her, to pour into them when they were little.
Yeah.
And I would always like be having conversations. And I remember back then I used to be like, man, I know people would look at me and be like, oh, she thinks she this. And I would hear a couple people say, oh, you think you better than everybody. You think, and I'm like, no, I'm just simply I knew long term that I was raising somebody's wife, somebody's husband, somebody's mom or dad. I knew that I had to be. Now children, when they get older, you can train them up in the way that they go, and they can sometimes veer off a certain way. But if you instill the foundational things inside of them, whether you feel like you're a perfect parent or not, because I know a lot of parents feel like they look at their mistakes in their life and they think, well, I don't feel qualified, or I don't feel like my kid's going to listen to me. What would you say to a parent, especially a dad, that's raising children alone, that struggles with the culture, and struggle with learning how to balance parenting, especially from a biblical aspect, to dealing with the culture?
I think when it comes down to dads, we get a raw deal. And I know sometimes about my daughter when she was younger, women would come up to me and say, oh my God, that's so great that you're babysitting your daughter. I'm like, babysit my daughter. That means I'm giving that child back. My daughter lives with me. So you can't make that assumption that I'm babysitting her. You should never say that. When it comes down to the culture, you have to tell your kids, everything that I'm telling you in this house is the truth. You can't be living like the Joneses. You can take them down to the expensive neighborhood and tell them, look at all these beautiful homes, but I guarantee you there's somebody in that home that's not happy.
That's true.
Look at these beautiful, I'm not saying you can't buy a beautiful home. Look at these beautiful cars. You want to strive for something, get something really, really nice. That's completely great. But are you happy? That's the most important thing. So when it comes down to the culture, don't even think about what everybody else has. Look at what you have yourself. Because, my daughter never milked that she was a divorced child. Her grades, always exceptional, always spectacular. She never said, well, you and mom got divorced. Never brought that up.
Do you think that's different? I want to ask you about that. Do you think that's different? Because a lot of kids do feel like if one parent, especially the dad, because in most single parent homes, it's usually the mom. Do you think, and I don't know, before I even ask you that, I'm just going to give you my perspective. I think that may be a little bit different, because with daughters, you get a lot from your mom, but the fathers instill identity into the girls. So when your dad tells you that you're amazing and do like what you said to your daughter, it goes a little bit more deeper than, not that you don't hear what your mom say. You expect your mom to tell you that she loves you. You expect, because mothers are considered to be more nurturing. But for fathers, I don't think a lot of people understand the role of a father is to instill identity into a kid.
Yeah, let's back up for a sec. So you have a lot of men out here who people want to talk bad about. You don't know the behind story of that woman made his life a living HELL, correct? Of course, definitely. Because they use that as a situation that this guy is really, really bad. He doesn't want to do this. And that's not even a situation. The guy sometimes might just be tired for fighting the situation.
That's true.
When you want to put the child first and not use that child as a pawn, then you can come together as a unit and make it work. So a lot of situations that I went through, I made sure I told courts, it's all about her. It's not about me and her mom. I didn't even get into the gory details. So installing that comfort level with my child or your child, I would tell single dads, one, if you're a girl dad, if you're a boy dad, you got 2 kids, whatever, and you having drama with a mom, it's like to never give up. Because if you give up, then it's going to show that it's okay for them to give up. Because you want to keep them out of the business, right? So, but there are situations that dads are giving up because of the drama they are with the moms, which is a sad situation, right? But on the flip side of that, you have to put the child first. And if you can't do that, then this whole situation becomes to legality, right? I don't care about that part. But I'm just saying, as a girl dad, I feel like showing my daughter love. You mentioned things they remember. So like this past Labor Day was interesting because it was the first Labor Day I didn't have to travel to go to Boston. Because my daughter, every year I had to go to Boston, help her move out of a dorm or move to an apartment or whatever. And we kind of chuckled about it, like it's the first time I didn't have to do it. And I would send her pictures like, hey, this picture was taken last year. Do you remember this? Like, Dad, I really remember that. Thank you so much for doing that for me. You can do what you want for your kid, whatever you want to do. Your kid come back and says thank you. That's worth anything else. I really appreciate you for you doing that. Do my daughter a sweet 16. Yeah, I appreciate you doing that for me. So I think even though that was material, that's something you should never forget about.
I think what encouragement will you have to dads? Because some people might be watching and say, well, that's great because you turned out to be a great man. But what would you say to that father that may be listening that may feel like I've done everything that I can and my child is still not acting the way that they should be? I've done everything. I've made the sacrifices. I've taught them what was right. I took them to church. I read the word to them and they just went out. They got grown and they just went out in the street and they feel hopeless or they feel like they failed. What would you say to that dad?
I think sometimes we instill into the church, into the Bible, into a kid so much that it makes them numb. So you can't come to them as a parent, the parent that's God. You got to come to as a parent that's human.
Yeah, I love that. Wait, say that again. You
can't come to the parent that you're like this God-driven person. You got to come to them as a parent that is loving. And then you have a conversation with them. No matter what you do, I love you. You have some parents that, let's just be real. You have some parents that I hear horror stories like, let's say a dad finds out his son is gay. Or they find out their daughter is gay, whatever the situation may be, and they freaking disown them.
Yeah, I've seen
and I'm
that.
like, how can you disown, your child? So I'll give you a perfect example. I talked to my daughter, and I said to her, I said, hey, how's your roommate? Your roommate in your freshman year, how's she doing? They're doing good. So I said, okay, is she still in Boston? Is she still going to school there? Yes, they are. I'm like, yo, why are you talking to me like that? Like, why are you talking to me like that? So I said, she's still on campus. Is she still enrolled in school? And how's she doing it? Because her roommate was going through some mental situations.
Gotcha.
She said, they're doing great. I'm like, why are you talking about? She said, oh, Dad, because she doesn't use that pronoun. So she had to break it down for me, right? So then I asked my question. So what pronoun do you use? She says, well, Dad, I use her, she, whatever it is. She said, but would it make a difference? I said, it would not make a difference. I would still love you because you're my daughter, unconditionally, right? But I would tell that dad that thinks that their son, daughter is a failure is go have a conversation with them. When I say go have a conversation with them, you might just go up to just give them a hug and just say, I love you unconditionally. You ain't got to say too much. Maybe they might open up. Maybe they won't open up, but they know Dad came over here and gave me a hug. Sometimes you want to talk to me this, talk to me that. I don't even tell it to my daughter. Hey, the first question I ask my daughter is, hey, how's your mental health?
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
How's your mental health going?
That's amazing.
So going up to give your child a hug. When I go see my daughter in a couple of weeks, the first thing I'm going to do, just give her a hug. I don't have to say anything to her. And my ex-wife's side of the family all know the bond that my daughter and I have.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think, you know, and you might feel as a mother, like I've done everything that I could to raise my child. I've took them to church. I've instilled love in them, and they haven't, and they still went their own way. But one thing we got to realize, I love what David said, is that you don't try to come to them as God, but you try to come to them as a parent, right? I think most of all, children understand love in ways that we probably would never understand. And I think they can understand, they know when you really love them. They know when you mean well towards them. They know when you're just trying to hurry up and get them out of the way so you can do what you want to do. You have to, my best friend always say this, and she always say, you have to make time. And I think making time is important, because when you take the time to be present, right, which is what I've done. I've explained this to David before the broadcast, is that one of the things that I've done is kind of just cut back and decided I'm gonna live a more simpler life. Now I have the ability to go and get it, right? I have the ability to go out there and do, but I realized that, and it wasn't until really, really recently that I realized that parenting is a calling, right? Parenting is your first ministry. It is your first responsibility. If you're not a parent, then you have the ability to do everything you want to do first. But when you are a parent, that is your only job that you don't get to walk away from, right? You never get to take breaks. Or get a bonus, right? It is your job from the day that they're born to the day that you are always going to be a parent, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're single, you are always going to be a parent. So I realize that if there's one thing that I want to make sure that I do well, because I have done well in a lot of other areas of my life. I want to do well in the area that's going to matter the most.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you're raising your children, you're raising humans, you're raising people that's going to be affected. I had this video that I played on my podcast a couple of months ago, and I played it for a while. It was from John Bevere. Mm-hmm. And it was a video where God had called different people up, and this person said that they were an accountant, and God and the man that was pretending to be God said, I didn't call you to be an accountant. I called you to run a church. And then there was another scenario where the other person was running a church, and God didn't call him to run a church. He called him to be a business person. And he was like, huh? And then there was and he went through several scenarios, but there was this one, when he got to the woman, she said, I never got a chance to really start my own business. I never got a chance to do this. All I have been doing was just raising my kids. And he said to her, I never called you to do all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I called you to raise those 2 kids. And with those 2 kids, they impacted 1.3 million people. Mm. And I think sometimes we have to put parenting in perspective to realize that you're not just raising just somebody that looks like you. You're raising somebody, and you're imparting into them should be imparting wisdom that you learn, right? And putting them around other people so that they can learn things, because they're going to impact people that we'll never be able to know.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I think, let's back up a sec. There's no perfect parent.
No, not absolutely.
You know, you can give, I tell these people all the time, you can give a kid, when I go to like some of these schools and I see some of these kids parents giving them Range Rovers, which is not a problem. Mm-hmm. But when they graduate from college, mm-hmm. you go give them a Ford Explorer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I like Ford Explorers. Mm-hmm. They can't go back. They got to go up.
Yeah.
So what are you going to make them to strive for?
Right.
That's the way I look at it. Like
I love that. I feel the same way, because my kids, I remember my son Christian, when we were living in Florida, and I think he was like 14 years old. And he said, Mom, I want a cell phone. And I said, well, I'm not paying for a cell phone bill, because right now a cell phone, you don't really need a cell phone, right? I said, but instead of discouraging him, what I said was, if you want a cell phone, then that means that you would have to find a way you have to be resourceful, and you have to come up with the money to do it. And I said, now, this is what I'm going to do. I said, tell me what it is that you want to do. He said, just buy me a bag of candy. So I said, just candy? He said, I'm going to sell the candy. So I thought, oh, this is funny. And T-Mobile, this is when T-Mobile had the little kids thing where I think it was like $25 for unlimited talk or text. So I said, candy. So I was like, oh gosh, I got to see this. So I bought him a big bag of candy from Sam's and he took it to school. And he said, Mom, if I make the money and I sell all this candy, he said, will you let me have a phone? I said, if you sell all this candy, I will get you a phone because you showed me that you have that you're willing to put in the work. Not only did he sell that bag of candy, David, he's an entrepreneur now. He teaches trading. So it's funny because I looked at him and I started laughing. I was like, all you have to do is just show them that it's possible.
Yeah.
Show them that's possible. Not only did he sell candy, David, he was so wise. He would go in a grocery store and he would sell people. He would sell people the coupons
Smart kid.
that were hanging in the store. You know, the little coupons that you pull. I'm like, how do you sell a coupon? He was selling coupons to people.
Hey, the will is a way.
And I thought, this boy has something. He has something going. And ever since then, he sold that one bag of candy every month, and that's how he paid for his own cell phone.
Well, you know what? It goes back to I remember watching the TD Jakes. He spoke about this. It was a sermon called "Never Give Up," right? Mm-hmm. And it was talking about the Shunammite woman in 2 Kings chapter 4, how she wanted a baby and she didn't get it, and long story short, she had a baby. But one thing he said that struck out to me about his sermon, he's like, when you want something, you got to do things that other people just won't do.
You hear that?
And people don't realize that. They think like being a parent, I feed them, I put clothes on their back, I give them lodging, and they can go to sleep. But it's a lot more than that because when they wake up, they look at you like, okay, what are we doing? Like my stomach's full, but I want to go outside. Or I want to do soccer. Or I want to do ballet.
Yeah.
Or I want to go to the park.
Yeah.
I want to go on a trip. Because my daughter used to get mad at me sometimes. And she was like, well, all my friends are going on spring break. They're going away.
Oh, gosh.
I would still put her in camp in spring break. So I said, you want to go away? She was like, yeah. I said, well, spring break costs money.
Yeah.
And we're still going to have fun on spring break, but we're not going away. We're going to stay here in Atlanta. We're going to have our own spring break. So if I took off a couple of days so we could spend time with each other in mid-spring break. And the reason I wanted to show that to her is because you just can't follow everybody else is doing. Because some people like who are going on spring break, they're going to probably be in debt the following month. Right. So that's fine. You can have they go on spring break. And she came back. She said, you know what, Dad? I went to school. I told everybody that I went to this museum and this museum. They go, oh, I wish I would have did that too because you know all my folks did, or all we did was just argue on spring break. And I was like, hey, you know, sometimes when you sit back and you hear what your kids say, and you can like, you know what, I think I did the right thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know just what you mean. And I think, and I was telling my girlfriend this, I said, and you're right, it's not about being a perfect parent. It's about learning how to parent from where you are, right? Yeah. Because you might grow up in a 2-parent household and you may have the finances to be able to do things that maybe I may not be able to do at the moment, right? So what I have to do is I'm still going to have to, because children don't understand when you say you can't. They don't understand that. They just know that if Sally did it, if Veronica did it, why can't we do it? What's wrong with you? So when I told one of my girlfriends, I said, one of the things I used to always set a boundary to is when you're in my household and my kids, and that was really helping me because sometimes you can feel a certain kind of way if you see your kids are longing to do what other kids are doing and you feel like, man, I'm not in that position to do that. You can kind of start to feel a certain kind of way. But one of the ways I combat that feeling was I had to realize this is what I have to work with.
Yeah.
And I'm not responsible for how Veronica's mother teaches her because Veronica's mother has a different set of rules in her house.
Guardrails.
And as long as you're in my house, these are my rules. Every parent has their own rules. And no parent has a right to overstep their boundaries in another person's household and say, well, you should do this or you should do that. You can encourage, but I made that really, I would tell them really quick. Well, instead of making them feel like, oh, we don't have it, I say, no, we do things a little different.
Well, you know what I did is my daughter used to see me paying bills.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, yo, take care of this for me.
Mm-hmm.
Be the mortgage, the electric bill, whatever. And she would see the amount. And she was like, well, Dad, I don't have that. I'm like, what you talking about? You know, you think I'm over here just having fun? I always show my daughter certain things. Like, this is how much this costs to run this household. You have to show them these things.
Right.
And they get a better understanding. Like, oh, wow, you know.
Right.
Just like say she wanted to go to spring break. I'm like, you want to go to spring break or you want to go to summer camp? It's either or. She made the right decision because she wanted to go, you know, you got more camp time, right? And I think as parents, yeah, we want to spoil our kids. I can tell you right now, my daughter is spoiled, but she's not a brat.
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
So extra love, how my friends say, get extra love.
Being spoiled is different than being a brat because my daughter will give you the shirt off her back because she knows that that's how her dad raised her. And I'm taking her from her mom. Her mom did a great job. I told you before before we got on, I'm not going to sit up here and say, I just raised my daughter by myself. You know, I did raise her the majority of the time, but I told you that one of my ex-wife's friends asked me how are things with her and I would just say they're great, you know, but I told her she's one of my heroes. And I say that because the pure fact of I saw my ex-wife give birth, and for someone to give birth is hero status to me. So I have a lot of respect for her for that.
Definitely. And I think too is you have to be able to maintain a perspective. And I think what you said was important, talking to them, right? Instead of just yelling at them and just telling them no, because sometimes the kids, they don't understand. All they know is this person over here I went to school with, their parents bought them a brand new car. How come I can't get a brand new car? So I think talking to them and correcting them and saying, look, hey, you know, instead of saying, no, I'm not going to do it. No, I said no. You know, it's like, okay, she might be able to get her car today. You may get your car when you graduate. You might get your car when you graduate from college. You can't compare your life to what her life is going to be because you don't, like you said, you don't know. They might be going into debt trying to prove, because most of the time nowadays we live in a time where parents, especially, you know, when you see a lot of people, when you see these, what is it? They call it MTV Cribs or whatever, where they want to show that they're giving their child the best. But sometimes I'm realizing giving them the best means being present, talking to them, and teaching them life skills so that when they grow up, like I heard Damon Johns, I was listening to him on YouTube one day, and it was so funny. And he said, my daughter, even though I am filthy rich, he said, I let my daughter know that is my money.
That's what Shaq said too. Shaq said, you know, it's not your we're not rich, I'm rich.
Right.
That's what he said.
Right.
And speaking of cars, it's like my daughter, she kept telling me in 11th grade, you know, Dad, you know, juniors and seniors don't catch the school bus. And I said, who said that? She said, Dad, all the kids 11th grade, you know, they have cars. I already knew I was going to buy her a car. So I remember it was like September. She was in a play before her birthday. And she said, Dad, you take me to IHOP? I said, why can't your friends take you? And she kept telling me, because I want you to take me. And I was like, all right, what are you not telling me? And she pulled me to the side. She was like, Dad, the reason why my friends can't take me, somebody already has someone in the car. It can't be 3 people in the car. It can only be 2 people. Oh. And I was like, that's pretty responsible. Yeah. So she came in one day right before her birthday. She said, well, I know I'm not getting a car. So can I get a MacBook Pro? Oh. For college? I'm like, MacBook Pro is almost as much as a car. Now I'm just playing with her, right? And she's like, I just can't believe why everything got to be about money. I said,
that's like a number one thing.
But on her 18th birthday, her grandma was in town and her mom took her to the Publix where she had to go pick up from school because she went out of district. And I had her car waiting there for her. I had her mom go all around the whole parking lot, had the car with a bow on it. And when my daughter got the car, started crying because she could never forget on her 18th birthday, I bought her a car. But the reason why is because I know she's going to be responsible.
Yeah.
And I know that she wasn't going to abuse the situation. Now, on that birthday night, she asked her mom, she's like, Mom, what time do I come in? What time do I come in, tonight? And she said, well, you going to your dad's house or you going to my house? She goes, I'm probably going to go to dad's house. She says, oh, well, you can come in at 12 o'clock. And she walked over to me. She said, oh, Mom said, I can come in at midnight. So you be home by 11. You could be home by, you could be in at 11:30. She said, 11:30. I said, yeah. I said, your license expires. A junior license expires at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you need to be home by 11:30.
Yeah.
And one thing I can say about her is that girl never broke curfew. Now, I was the curfew abuser.
Oh, gosh.
But my daughter never
I was sneaking in the window.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this girl really, really gets it. I'm so grateful that she never did that. But going back to that, even her 16th school, she said, Dad, if I had C grades, would you throw me to a 16 party? I said, no. I would have gotten you dinner like we have right now. But I don't get stuff for people who do subpar. You showed me things that you want to do. I said, anybody who's out listening right now, when you do a great job, you get a bonus or you get a raise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your job is to go to school.
Absolutely.
So if you go to school and get great grades, you get rewarded.
Absolutely. And it's funny because my kids, I said I did them the same way. I used to tell them, I'm just checking the different sites. If you see me going through, I'm checking the live, make sure nobody's having questions while I'm going. But so one of the things I used to do too is when my older kids were younger, I didn't give them everything because I wanted them to understand the value
absolutely
of $1. I wanted them to know. And it's funny because now I watch them and they're very frugal. Like they're very disciplined.
Yes.
Like, especially my daughter, my two older sons, like, and my youngest son, he's 23. And I'm like, he's 23, he's in college, has his own place. And I look at how he handles and manages his money. And I'm like, he's 23 years old and he has a better brain than I did at 23 because of the things that I instilled in him and the things that he learned. And we talk about it all the time, but I love, if I value anything else that I've learned as a parent and teaching them, I value the fact that I did take the time.
Yes.
To sit down and teach them not only life skills, but to teach them the word. Like anybody that knows me know I'm a stickler for teaching my kids the word. And so they got both sides. They got life. They got the mama that didn't play, and then they got them. They got all of it. Then they got the mom that taught them about the word. So when I look at them now, I can actually say I used to get so much. People used to always be thinking to me when I would say set up boundaries, and they would be like, "Mom, why?" Like my daughter, when she went through her little period of stage of dating, and she was just like, rebellious. And I thought, oh my God, I remember I used to have so many people praying for me, like, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. And I remember she came to me a year later when we moved from Florida to Georgia. And she said, Mom, I was just thinking about some stuff and I treated you really bad during that time that I was dating. And I feel so bad about that. And she said, I just wanted to apologize for you. That literally broke me because I had just gotten married and I had been single for like 7 years, just got married. My husband was wonderful to my kids. My kids loved him. He loved them. And she literally acted a plain fool. And I was like, what in the world? Where did this come from? And it's because I don't think she understood that I was able to see the areas that she was hurting because her dad and we've been divorced like 7-8 years. And so she didn't understand, like she thought that I didn't understand her feelings or her emotions about the separation and the divorce. And I think, and this is why I always say to parents is that just because you and the parent divorce, you move on with your lives, the children still need help maneuvering through the divorce because we get divorced and we go on. We like, oh, I'm good. I'm going to go on with my life and do whatever I want. The kids have to, I think sometimes we forget to help navigate the kids through that divorce too, because they start to feel like, well, what about me? Sometimes they even take it personal and think, did they divorce because of me?
You have to have that conversation with it, but also, it wasn't easy for me and my ex-wife. I mean, we went at it, but my daughter never saw me talk bad about her mom.
That's really good.
Even when her mom wasn't around, she never saw me talk fighting with her mom because I want her to understand, like, you know, a male can still get along with someone that's not. We take pictures together. My daughter graduated from college, you know,
That's
last
amazing.
year.
That's amazing.
You know, when it came down to our child, we really got along. You know, so yeah, it's very, very important that you try to have that relation. Not gonna say it's not easy. I'm not gonna say it happens all the time, but as a man, I think like never let your child hear you talk negative about their mom.
Right.
My daughter asked me questions about her mom sometimes. Like she's like, Dad, do you think mom's pretty? In the back of my mind, I'm like, your mom is such a beautiful woman. And so one time, I remember one time we were going to go do something for her sweet 16, and her mom got in my car, and my daughter was like, "Whoa, what's going on here? Like, why's mom in your car?" I said, "We got to take care of some business." And she was going to hop on the school bus, and she was like, "Why is mom in your car though?" I said, "Listen, take care of some business. We got this." She walked away. She goes, "I'm just confused right now." But I let her know that, hey, you know,
right, you can be cordial.
You can still be, you can still be cordial. Like I said, it's not easy. I'm not gonna sit here and say, you know, give you guys, this is a perfect situation. I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm talking about guys as the gender guys.
Right.
Like absolutely. You have to try to work that situation out with your ex-wife, ex-mother, whoever she is, and just say, hey, can we put the kids first? You can hate me all you want to, but can we just do this for our child? Doesn't work out. You have to keep asking. You have to like make sure you're doing like, what can I do to make our relationship better for our children? Right. That's what you have to do. And I mean, it does get easier as they get older because they're more self-sufficient. But if you, the first thing you can do is you have to ask that person to forgive you for whatever you did, because no one's perfect. So whatever you did to that female, whatever you did to that male, whatever situation may be, you have to ask for forgiveness. And then if they don't forgive you, then you're released. Yeah, because you already asked for forgiveness, right? Yeah. And then you can say, okay, well, now I just want to try to move on and try to do better for, you know, our child. That's all you can really possibly do to try to make it more civil, because you don't want that to spill over to the kids. Yeah, and it's funny because divorce in today's time can be, you know, we can see, can be pretty nasty, and it's difficult because when you got one person who is dealing with unforgiveness, right, and you have to be the one to be the bigger person, sometimes that can be, you know, and I know a lot of you might have that are watching probably like, well, I am cordial, but my spouse or my ex-spouse isn't, right? How do you, as a parent, set boundaries? And we're going to move over into the next part because we're probably not going to have time to go through all of them, but we're going to go through as much. This conversation is really amazing, right? So we're going to talk about how to set boundaries, right? When it comes to you as a parent, right? How do you set boundaries in place when it comes to, because when most people that are divorced, some people are divorced and they never remarry again and never enter in relationships again. And then you have some that enter into they start introducing themselves to the opportunity to have relationships. How does a single parent from a male's perspective set boundaries? Because we always talk about it from a woman's perspective, but I'm curious to know from a male's perspective, how do you set boundaries as a parent when it comes to dating and starting new relationships? So you don't let your child see the person you're dating unless you're serious. I totally agree with that. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you want to, when you feel like it's getting serious, you can incorporate that child into the person that but it's baby steps, maybe meet at a park or a dinner or whatever. But for a male point, for me, and this is just me, if my ex, and this happened with my ex-wife, is seeing someone and you're serious, I will come here like, hey, I think I need to meet the person that you're dating. It's gonna be around my child. You know, that's just how it is. And your ex should probably already know that you're not the one to be messed with when it comes down to your kid being hurt. Whatever situation that may be. That's just a given, right? So, and it goes vice versa too, as a male. Like you want your ex to meet whoever you're seeing, even if it's at a school function, even if it's at a soccer, whatever situation means, everybody should be able to be cordial, right? Absolutely. So I think there's nothing to hide, you know. I think it should be a cordial situation, like, hey, this is such and such and such and such. I want you guys to meet, and vice versa. And then a guy should be able to handle if you're truly over your ex,
right,
you should be able to handle, she's saying there's no reason for you to be mad at this person, at the male, because the person is coming in, you should be mad at that person. Only time you should be mad at that person if that person is trying to be in your business and try to be, not just a father figure, but trying to be supersede what you're saying. But you should have a sit down conversation with that person and be like, here's my expectations of how you need to be with this. If you have a problem, please give me a call. Especially if they're going to get married. Not like, it's a whole situation.
Right.
But if it's just going to be dating, I think it should be, hey, have a conversation. But on the flip side of that, you have a talk with your child. Like, let me tell you something. Let me know what's going on. Person ever puts their hands on you, you feel unsafe, I'm an open door. You can always come to me. Because no matter what, your mom gets married, dad gets married, we're all going to still be that family unit. So it has to be a mature situation when it comes down to the dating aspect of it. You have to make sure, even if one party's not over the other party, you still have to have that conversation and meet that person.
Yeah. And I like to add to that too, is I think you as a parent have to know, once you enter into a new phase where you're divorced and you are ending a relationship, whether it's divorce or period, I think what happens is you have to understand, you have to take time to reflect and figure out, okay, what went wrong, what areas, because so many times I think we go from relationship to relationship. We jump out of one relationship 3 seconds later, probably 2.5 seconds later, equal to weeks, probably sometimes days, especially here in Atlanta.
True.
People don't take the time to reflect, right? Because they treat people as just another body. So what happens is you have to set the boundary, and you have to know who you are first. You have to know what you want, right? You have to first figure out, and even before you figure out what you want, you have to figure out what lessons did you learn? Let me evaluate this previous relationship I was in. What went wrong? What things I could have done better that I could do better in the new relationship? But what happens is most people don't do that. They just, people are afraid to be alone. They're afraid. And I kind of can say I was probably one of those at one point. I was one of them at one point, not really being alone with, it was like I could be alone, but it's like for a season. But then I started to realize, as I started, the longer length I was single, I started to realize, wow, I'm finding out some things about myself.
Self-reflection.
I'm finding out that all of this time that I'm focusing on relationships, I can be doing this. I could be, expanding. I could be pouring that time into my children, right? And I realized that when I started to put things in perspective, it started to change even how I saw relationships. Because I think sometimes people feel like, especially when you've been married a lot longer than you've been single, you kind of start to feel like, well, dang, I don't like this. I don't like this being alone like this. But I started to realize that the more you start appreciating the time that you have to reflect on the things that you've done good and the things that you could have done better, I think it will kind of help you set healthy boundaries, right? Healthy boundaries, meaning that that if you are going to be pursuing a relationship with somebody, or somebody's going to be pursuing a relationship with you, you don't have to settle for making the decision to entertain that relationship based on your lack or your void of feeling lonely. Now you can say, okay, God has filled this void, right? God has helped me in this area to help me to reflect and see what I've done wrong. Now, because I have healthy boundaries, I can look at a relationship, and now I don't have to be so desperate, right?
Absolutely.
I don't have to feel like my biological clock is ticking, right? Now I can look at it and say, you know what? God has given me these kids to raise, so I can raise these kids. And if that is something that God has in alongside of me, I always tell my friends, they just have to come right alongside of me as I'm going. Because I used to stop my entire life to entertain relationships, just stop everything. And put all the energy in the relationships. And it's like, and then I realized, what did I get out of this? What did I do? All I did was waste time. My business didn't get any farther than what I wanted to do. That was time taken away from my kids. So now I look at it different. Now I say, okay, if I pursue purpose, if I pursue what God has called me to do, then everything in my life, including the things that I desire in relationships, all fall into place.
I agree. I look at it like luggage, right? Relationship, like you jumping from relationship to another relationship, like luggage. When you go on a trip, you take luggage with you.
You sure do.
And then when you come back, you got the same luggage with you.
You sure do.
That's what people do when it comes to relationships. Here in Atlanta, people will jump to one, keep bringing different luggage, right? You have to take sometimes it's okay to step back and just go sit down somewhere.
Absolutely. Y'all hear that? Sometimes it's good to go sit down
and
somewhere.
From a male perspective, you ask that question sometimes, like, when you ask somebody like, when's your last relationship? And they tell you, you're like, okay. And then, you ask somebody, oh, I'm separated. This is my favorite line. Somebody said they're separated. I'm like, oh, but you still married?
Exactly. Did you hear that?
And they go, well, no, we're separated.
You're still legally married.
But you're still married. I'm actually going out there with somebody else's wife. So go sit down somewhere and relax.
Oh my gosh.
And think about it and just say, hey, let me do self-reflection.
Gosh.
Nothing wrong with just being by yourself sometimes and chill.
Oh my gosh. I think I've been hit with that so many times. Well, I'm separated, or and I'm like, you might be separated, but you're still legally bound. So to me, it's like you're putting me in a position that I know how the end result is going to be. Right. And here's the thing, when you have somebody that's pursuing you and somebody is disconnecting from their spouse, they're already breaking a covenant. And you thinking, well, if you could just break a covenant like that with them,
right,
then especially if it's an area of sickness and disease or something like that, if you could just break a covenant with them at the first fight or whatever, then why do I think it's going to be any different with me?
Sometimes it's okay to take a sabbatical from relationships.
It is that I have learned. And I think, and I smile because the person I am today and the person I was 6 years ago, so totally different. And I like where I am today. I like where I am mentally. I like where I am spiritually. And I like where I am emotionally, because I have gone through a lot of different stages where I realized that I had boundaries that I thought were boundaries, but weren't really boundaries. They were kind of like, yeah. So now I'm like, I feel good because now I know that my life is full because first of all, I have Christ, and because he has made me content in so many areas of my life that if a relationship was to come alongside of me, if it does, it does. If it doesn't, I'm still good, right? I feel like God has allowed me the opportunity. And sometimes you have to look at it as parents when you're raising, especially small kids, because most people nowadays, especially in this world, most people don't want to date people that have smaller children. And sometimes that's not always a bad thing, because if you figure that somebody doesn't want to date you because you have small kids, that's not a bad thing, because you don't want somebody that's going to be around that's going to be potential for harming your kids, molesting your kids, or even mistreating your kids. So if you have to just take that time when your kids are young, when I was married the first time, and my kid, I think my oldest at the time was 13, and I didn't date. I didn't have a real serious relationship. And then the people I dated, my kids never knew. They never knew. Never saw them. Never knew.
I never dated at all either.
Never knew. And I didn't date a whole lot. And when I did, and I did that for a reason, because I wanted to spend my time being there, because we had gone through a divorce, and I learned that they were going through some stuff that I felt like I had gotten over and dealt with, and I was seeing them still struggle. And so I took those 7 years and I was like, you know what? Let me take the time and focus on them. Let me help them heal. Let me help them get to the point to where they can be able to get through this. And some of my kids, even though they're adults, they're still struggling with some stuff that happened in my first marriage. And I still have to walk them through that. But I realized that everything in our life happens for a reason. Right. And so when if you're a single parent and you're going through a season where you are single, it's not always a bad thing, because you can take this time to pour into your kids. You could take the time to really help them develop into the person that they want to be. And it doesn't mean you can't have relationships, but if God allows for you to have a relationship, you should already be in a place emotionally. Don't use relationships as a way to get away from your kids.
That's true.
Because some parents do that. They don't want to be alone. They don't want to be around their kids, especially when the pandemic happened. Nobody wanted to be home with their kids.
They drove them crazy.
Everybody was like freaking out, like, I can be home with this. Like marriages is going through stuff because sometimes we get so busy, we fill our lives up with so many different things that when we are forced to have to deal with each other, it's like, oh, wait a minute, like, hold up, I have to deal with you all day, you know. What it says, so it's like, you know, people have to really, I think what happens is you have to get to a place where you allow God to fill up all the voids that cause you to entertain relationships that weren't healthy. And it sometimes when you're in an unhealthy relationship, it does affect your parenting.
Yeah, it does. But you mentioned about is taking some space out for your kids, also take time out for yourself.
And for yourself. Yep. Because if you are not completely, if you haven't been taking the time to spend time with yourself and even figure out some of the things that you want. I remember my sister-in-law said when my husband died, and she said, you spend so much time, you know, always doing things that he wanted. Now you get the chance to do some things you want to do.
That's correct.
Because, you know, even the Bible says when you're married, you care about the things concerning the world and all things concerning your husband. But when you're single, you care about the things concerning the Lord. So it's like, for me, I feel like being single has kind of helped me to kind of get focused on the real things that matter. My parenting with my kids, my relationship with God, helping me to get whole and healed in some areas of my life. So like I said, when I do wind up getting into a relationship again, I'm not doing it because I'm trying to fill a void.
That's right.
I'm not trying to stuff a relationship in a void.
Enforce it.
Now I can be who I am. I don't have to worry about trying to conform to what somebody wants me to be just to kind of be in a relationship. Now I could be myself and I could be like, look, today I'm looking like Wolfgang Pup. Was that Wolfgang?
Wolfgang.
And the other days I feel like a beauty queen. But either way, I don't feel the pressure to feel like I have to be a certain way. I don't have to feel the pressure to perform. I can be who I am, because trust me, whoever it is that you wind up, you know, if you decide to be in a relationship, they're gonna like you for who you are, or they should like you for who you are. They shouldn't be concerned about the aesthetic portion of it, because that stuff you're gonna change. Trust me, when you get older, you might feel like one way now, but you might, by the time you're 70, 80 years old, you may not look the same. You know, so you can't build relationships based on how you look now, because I promise you that's going to change. It's going to change. And your children need to see you healthy. You know, when you've been in toxic relationships, your children need to see you healthy.
That's absolutely true.
Whether you're a single mom or a single dad, they need to see you healthy. So, because when they see you healthy, it helps them navigate their relationships, whether it's friendships. It helps them to deal with insecurities. It helps them to deal with, you know, being antisocial because they don't know how to communicate with people. You don't realize that when you become healthy, your children look at you and they be like, I look at where I am now and I look at my girls and they see me healthy and I see them even more confident, because they like, well, mommy's always happy. Well, mommy's happy because of who she is, who God has made her to be, and not because of external things. And I think you mentioned earlier that, you know, about being happy, but I think happiness is circumstantial. I think when you only pursue happiness, it's nothing wrong with being happy, but to just pursue happiness alone is circumstantial. So when things are not going the way you want them to be, it can affect your happiness. But when you are filled with joy, when you allow God to fill you with joy, happiness is a byproduct of it.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. So with you being a and we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get David, because he is a financial technologist. Yeah. So he's going to show us, parents, right, how to navigate through our finances as a single parent. So we'll be right back. Make sure you call up your girlfriends. And if you are enjoying this, make sure you put in the comments that let us know what is your parenting style? Do you know anything that can help another parent be able to navigate through parenting, through difficult seasons or different seasons in their life? We want to hear from you. So make sure you put in the comments, let me know where you watch it from, and I'll see you right after this.
Step in the circle, queens rise and glow. We talk truth, let the inner light show. Real ones link, we ain't moving alone. Faith, fire, purpose, built in the bone. Mind on mission, heart stay aligned. Sisterhood strong, power redesign. Checking in weekly, spirit refined. We break through the noise, wisdom divine.
Check in, tap into light. God in the middle, we fight the good fight. No mask, no shame, come as you are. From broken to bold, yeah, we're raising the bar. Sisterhood check-in, tap into light. This ain't just talk, we walk with the word. Faith in motion, fly like a bird. Healing in a rhythm, truth in a beat.
I see you carrying everyone else's burdens while your own heart is breaking. Don't Die in the Storm isn't just a book. It's permission to put yourself first.
I felt lost when I lost my loved one. I felt hopeless and didn't know where else to turn. I felt numb because of the pain. I didn't want to talk to anyone.
Strength and dignity, we shine, we glow. Boss moves, cheek vibes everywhere we go. Dripping in style from the hills to the T. Confidence on, baby, you know it's S&D.
Hey, I want to take a quick break in the podcast to share with you some amazing products from Mary Ruth. Mary Ruth I've learned about Mary Ruth sometime last year, and I love her products. Their products are all natural and they have a great taste. And I'm telling you, this stuff is amazing. So I have the magnesium calm, which is for bones aching. If you have achy bones, or you can use this for your achy bones. It has an almond vanilla flavor. Doesn't taste the best, but it does the work, right? And I also use the Mary Ruth multivitamin. It's made with I'm hoping I'm saying this right, lipomasol, which is lipomasol is used to engineer and make sure that the products actually get in your cells. So this stuff is amazing. It's fast acting. You can literally notice the difference immediately. And I also have the Mary Ruth hair growth vitamins. This stuff right here is amazing. I use this in my hair when I was having some hair loss issue. I don't know if it was just because of my age or whatever, but I started experiencing hair loss, and this stuff right here, I started to notice a difference literally within weeks. And I also use it on my daughter's hair. My daughter was having some hair loss issue, and it actually helped tremendously with the growth. So if you're interested in finding out more about the Mary Ruth organic women's vitamins or any of the products she had, make sure you go to the link somewhere in this video and learn so that you can get yours today. Now back to the podcast. All right, we are back here on Sisterhood Check-In. Thank you so much for those of you that have been watching and that continue to watch with me every Friday. I appreciate your support. And for those of you that will watch, because I know that this recording is usually done late at 10, 11 o'clock at night. So even if you watch it on a replay, make sure you put #replay and let me know your thoughts on the conversation. So David, talk to us about, give us some tips as some single parents on what we can do to improve our situation financially since you're a financial advisor per se?
As a single parent, when I was with my daughter, I just never lived beyond my means. Like, don't get me wrong, I like to ball out, you know, but I think when you come down as a parent, you have to realize, like, I can't do that now. I have to be able to be more responsible.
Right.
So, you know, first thing I did was always make sure you have food. Kid wants to eat. You know, make sure you take care of your house, you know, roof over your head, and everything else that's real, real important. And then you have time to do everything else when it comes down to what your child wants. Never do what everybody else is doing if you can't afford it. It's just the bottom line. My daughter had a great childhood. I got a chance to put her on some great camps, some nice trips, but I didn't go overboard and go and ball out. It takes a village.
Right.
And sometimes that, you know, I had some struggle times with myself, you know, thank God for grandparents. You know, shout out to grandparents in Philly. But, you know, just you have to use wisdom when it comes down to certain things.
Right.
And sometimes kids don't want a bunch of stuff, you know.
That is so true.
They just want you to love them.
They just want you.
But for Christmas time, I would definitely go overboard sometimes.
Oh yeah, I think every parent.
If you got good grades, you got a chance to do. You got what you wanted. But that's all I can really tell you is just to think before you make these big purchases for your child. But I will have a caveat. Make sure you take care of yourself.
Right.
Buy yourself something nice.
Right.
Doesn't have to be expensive. But you got something nice. If you don't have your child and you have you know, the parent takes care of them, go on a trip. Right. You know, especially if it's the summer and, you know, you might have a couple weeks off. Absolutely. Do what's right for you. So that's about really, it's not even a manual. Just use your best wisdom and knowledge.
And I think too, it's important to understand is that you have to teach your children how to live in your household, right? Because what happens is if you, again, like I said, if I mean, you can't change the fact that they might be around other kids who may have something that they desire. So what you do is I think most people are afraid to talk to their children, right? And share with them and say, hey, look, you know, in this household, you know, in order for you to get to this reward, like chores, like this is where like with McKinley and Bella, McKinley was working extra hard to get what she got this week. She was just like, and she made sure I paid her for it too. You said, right? But when you see them, I think when you set up reward systems, right, within your means, then even though they may see other children have that, if you spend time rewarding them based on responsibilities that you give them around the house, they might see other people, but it won't be like so overbearing that you feel like, because I remember when I was younger, my mom and my two brothers, she would always go shopping for us, school shopping. And girls, we just always get more because our stuff was way less expensive. And living in Jersey, we didn't pay taxes on shoes and clothes, right?
Yep. Good old days.
So I know, right? And so I always got more things because I'm a girl. My brothers would get upset because they wanted, you know, remember Levi jeans when Levi's was popular. And they wanted all name brand stuff. I never really cared a whole lot about name brand. I was just never really, you know, not that I don't like them, I just never really was head over heels over it. So I was good to go take the money that she gave me and I go downtown Newark and I would go buy all my stuff and literally come back with like tons of stuff. And my brother would take the same amount of money and they wanted all the name brand stuff. So they would come back with like 2 or 3 outfits. And they would get mad and be like, you gave Dara more money to do it. She was like, no, I didn't. It was because I was more resourceful, right? So to me, I didn't care about having Nike shoes, or to me, I just wanted to just be cute. So whatever that looked like in my budget, that's what I got. And so what I've learned is, even with raising my children, there are times where you put up reward systems. Okay, you want this kind of sneaker, or you want this game. Okay, so let's put up a reward system. Because if one thing I realized, that parents don't teach their children how to earn, right, what they want. If you're always giving them, they don't understand the value or of a dollar. So they expect you to just poop it out of your butt, you know, like, I want these $200 sneakers and you should just be able to get it because you have a job, right? No, this is my money, right? So when I started to put up reward systems for them, it made it easier for them to work towards. So if I told you, now you got to honor your word. Now you can't tell them you're going to do something and then you go back on your word, because then they're going to look at you crazy.
You got to do it. Yeah. My daughter, I went shopping one time and she put stuff in the cart and I was like, I'm not buying that. She goes, don't worry about it, Dad. Just take that card out. And I said, what are you talking about? She was like, that card right there. I said, what? And I shook my wallet. She said, that card right there. Just put that on there. Put it on there. Like, I got to pay that back, right?
Yeah.
So she understands. So I had to tell her, like, that's, it's not free.
It's not free money.
But, she, like I said, she got what she wanted because she got great grades. My thing was more about, she first got a job when she was like, maybe in 9th or 10th grade. But any other time, I just wanted her to just get her schoolwork, get it done. And me and Mom would say, make sure it happens. So it's not really any secret sauce. You just have to make sure. It's okay to tell them no. It's okay
a healthy no every once in a while.
It's okay to tell them, hey, it's a privilege for us to go out to have lunch, go out to dinner, go away. If these things are privileges. So I would just tell anybody who is single, male or female, just don't live behind your means. Do what you can do that you think is affordable. And then your kids will appreciate that, because then when you take them out, they're like, oh, Mom and Dad are, are really, your mom's balling, she's really doing this, she's really doing that. That's about the only I can really tell you. It's not anything extravagant. You do what you think is good. When you get paid, you know exactly what has to get paid.
Absolutely.
And then you take it from there.
Absolutely. And I think that I think when we talked about in the subject line about building a framework, for those of you that are interested, I do have a school community called the Becoming a Woman of Proverbs Wisdom Academy, where you can actually learn how to build a framework around your life and business. And there are some key things that I go over in the framework to kind of help you to be able to navigate that. If you desire to be able to run a business, if you're not really sure if you have what you're supposed to be doing, you're not really sure which direction to go, and you don't know who to talk to about it, or you may have gotten some advice and realize, hey, what do I do with this? How do I put this in place? How do I set up the systems and get this thing started so that I can be able to do? I know I'm called to do something, but I don't quite know how to do it and navigate it as a parent. So if you go to the school community, or you can go in and look, I have a website down at the bottom, wisdomacademy.online. Make sure you go there and check out the school, and there's different classes and things that I can help walk you through. Because I am also a mindset coach, so I can help you and walk you through some things that you can do. But I think the most important lesson that I've learned in my life as a parent is you have to learn how to be resourceful, right? And you have to not only have to learn how to be resourceful, but you have to learn how to give yourself a break. You have to sometimes pat yourself on the back, because parenting is not easy, and there's no one way. Everybody has the freedom and the liberty to parent their children the way they want to, right? And though we do, the Bible is our manual, right? Outside of the Bible, for those people that don't read the Bible, that there is no manual, right? That you may feel like you use. You might be looking at your parents and how they raised you. That might be your foundational reason on how you parent. Oh, this is how my mom did me, right? Either way is that you have to give yourself a break, and you have to take some time to realize that parenting, my children are grown and I'm still parent. I'm still learning some things, right? Even with the littler one, with the younger ones, I'm still learning some things. So it's not something that you get it one time and is that you are always forever learning, right? And every child, if you have more than one child, every child, you have to parent them differently, right?
That's true.
You might be able to, with one of my kids, I had to get up all in their face, right? Especially my 6-foot son, right? He was the one that out of all of my kids, he was the one that would try me. I knew it when he was 1. I said, when he get older, he's going to be the one to try me, because he will grow up and always be the ones that be like, well, why? But mommy, why? But he always had to know why. And I told my ex-husband, I said, he's going to be the one that's going to give us hell when he gets older. And he was, but it's not because he was a bad kid. He was just, he needed to be parented differently.
That's all.
And so, but he was the one that tried me. And it didn't matter because I realized with him, I had to be a little more stern with him. So that means if I had to stand up in the chair, because he's 6 foot tall, I had to stand up in the chair. I said, I will bust you in your chest, right? Because I was a single parent, their dad was not around. So I had to make sure that I stood my ground and to be able to be confident and know that I'm not doing this. And that's another thing. You don't discipline your children in anger, because when you discipline them in anger, you provoke them to wrath, right? And the Bible says, don't provoke your children unto wrath, because what happens is when you discipline them and you angry, you transfer that to them. And now you're not disciplined, and now you're fighting, because guess what? They're going to fight back, right? Sure. But when you stand your ground and you have to be forceful and say, look, this is what it is, take it or leave it, eventually they'll realize mommy ain't joking. My kids tell me now, my older kids say, oh, you soft on the other kids. You was not playing with us. You was punching us in the chest. The boys, not the girls. You was punching us in it. Now, I had 2 of my sons, I could just raise my voice and they understood. I didn't have to whoop them to. But one of my sons, I was all up in his eye, punching him in the chest like that. I was like, but I think what happens is that each child, you have to be able to, you have to parent them differently. So I knew with him, I had to be a little bit more harsh with him, because I know he was going to be the one to try me. He was going to see how far he can go. But when I look at him now, he's like, he always tells me like, man, I know I can always talk to you about anything. Mm-hmm. And he's 26. I know I could talk to you about anything. And if I tell him something now as a 26-year-old, he takes heed to it. I'll tell him, like I was talking to him about sugar. And I was like, son, you need to be careful, because he loves candy. He's a candy. This boy will eat candy all day, all night, and swear he don't eat a lot of sugar. And I remember one time I was in the hospital and the kids were around the bed, and he said, I have a plan. Look, I don't eat a lot of sugar. He had this like plan. And we were laughing. We're like, yeah, but before we got here, you just ate the whole pack of Oreos. Like, and so I was just sharing with him some things, in which we're going to talk about on a podcast very soon. I'm still gathering some things together about the importance of how sugar plays a role in your decision making. And how most people don't understand is that sugar controls the frontal part of your lobe. When you eat too much sugar, your frontal lobe is what affects your decision-making process. So when you're eating and consuming a lot of sugar, it'll affect your behavior. You don't even realize it. And I don't think people really understand it in depth. So I'm going to talk about that in the next coming episodes. But with him, I noticed that a lot of his up and down moods and things he was going through is because I realized when I started doing research, I'm like, you're eating too much sugar. You eat too much. You're consuming too much, And he was like, you know what, Mom? He said, I never really thought about that. He said, you know what? I'm going to cut back on sugar. I said, I think you should, because most people don't realize that even the relationships you're entertaining, even the things that you're doing is affecting your decision making. Mm-hmm. You can't see things clearly because the sugar, all that sugar you're taking, you can't see that this person may or may not be toxic for you, because your brain is so up and down because of the level of sugar. That's a warfare that we don't talk about. We talk about warfare in every other area of our life, but we don't realize that the enemy is killing us through our diet. Mm. And so it sounds like redundant, like I already heard that. But when I started to really look at it, I was like, this is why when I was looking at the research, I was looking at my kids. I'm like, this is why he's up and down, because of the sugar. He's eating a lot of sugar. I said, fast sugar. And I bet you'll start to see things clearly. You'll start to think differently. And I think as parents, sometimes when you're not in the financial place where you want to be, and you start making decisions to get things to try to suffice for the moment, and sometimes you wind up making decisions that seem like it's the best fit at the moment, but then you realize over time, like, man. And when I started to kind of like change some of the things that I was doing, I started realizing I was able to think a lot more clearly. Mm-hmm. And because I know if it affects my frontal lobe, then that means it affects how I make decisions. So if I'm making poor decisions, then I got to look at what am I eating that's affecting how I think. If I'm choosing unhealthy relationships, what am I eating that's causing me to not see that this is toxic? What is it that I'm eating? And we don't think like that. We just tend to think, our mood. But a lot of it is the things that we consume.
It's true.
So if you want to be able to know and learn more about that, make sure you go to the wisdomacademy.online. David, did you have any final words before we end the broadcast?
I just, thanks for the invite. I really appreciate that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate your wisdom and your contribution to, because like I said, I don't know a lot of single dads, so it's good to see that that you're a single dad and that you love the Lord and you don't see a lot of that. So to be able to see that in real time, I applaud you for that. So thank you guys so much for watching. You did an amazing job. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are going to watch in a replay, make sure you hit #replay. I appreciate you guys. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And make sure you hit like and share with somebody that you know that's a single parent that can use this information. I'll see you on next week. Bye-bye for now.
Rise so high, in the middle we fight the good fight, no mask.
No, 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 no.